Want to achieve network marketing success? Then you're in the right company. Hello, and welcome to Leave Nothing to Chance, hosted by networking marketing giant John Solleder. Learn everything you need to know about the network marketing space from somebody who's actually done it. Join us every week for front row seats as we feature some of the finest and most successful personalities in network marketing. Leave nothing to chance. Join us now.
Well, a pleasure to introduce another long-term friend of mine in the industry from beautiful Barrie, Ontario, and they even named a town after you, Barrie, which is really impressive. And that's, of course, Dr. Barrie White. How are you today, Doctor?
I'm doing great here.
You know, Doctor, in the recent book, Leave Nothing to Chance, there's 15 principles laid out there, and I'm wondering which one or maybe several are your favorite. Well,
the one that particularly gets my attention is the one on love. There's a whole background to that part of it, but the whole area of my being, we call it lifespan and so on, had to do with love. Love cost me problems. It causes me problems. I was doing in terms of my doctoral work, I could have gone on to complete clinical psychology, but in that particular one, my area of, because I fell in love with everybody at counsel kind of thing, that's dangerous. You don't do that. So I knew that was not the field for me. Now, so a lousy counselor. So I moved from that whole area, but that was the reason I eventually got to network marketing, was through that whole thing. Caring for other people. I found something that made a difference to, first of all, my wife. My wife was dying on me, and that was the major focus, not for money, not for anything else, just for the sake of my wife. So everything that I've done in terms of life vocation and so on has been motivated by that wanting to care for other people.
Great. And well, you're in the right industry for that, certainly.
Now.
But now you have several degrees, I believe. Tell me them exactly. I don't want to mess them up here. So what are all the
first of all, I'm an engineer. I graduated in engineering science way back when, and then did some MBA kind of stuff, and then went on to do a Master of Divinity, then a doctorate after that. So that's my sort of background. You don't expect engineers to wind up caring for people. Engineers care for things, right? They build things and all the rest. So I'm not characteristic of that. But in a sense, everything I did to the max. I did school to the max. I did my music to the max. These were the characteristics. I guess if you use the word term zone, everything I did in a whole bunch of range, I did in zone characteristics. I was doing focused as best I could, maximizing my time. So there lies my intensity. Less intense after I got stabbed and in the hospital, but intensity was the characteristic that I had for all of these things.
Wow. Well, and of course, too, you're one of those people that has morphed from one interest to another interest, and then jumped in with both feet and studied it meticulously and spent the time and the effort. And that's something that especially our young listeners need to listen to. There's time in life to study many things that you're interested in. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yes. You focus on what is important to you right now, and then find out that wasn't exactly what I was after, because it doesn't satisfy my soul. It just, that was the intense thing I needed at that time. But then it leads you. It's sort of like living in parallel universes. You go down this one universe unaware of the rest of the world, right? And then in going down that path, you discover there's other worlds out there. Hey. And that's what sort of leads you into, oh, this is more interesting, or as interesting, or I need to know more about, for example, all my life, because I'm an engineer, I have focused on everything scientific, science fiction included. it had that keeping up with the world in the scientific area, so as part of that, but other areas became more important.
Interesting. So let's talk about self-development a little bit. I know I'm looking at your the backdrop here with your books, and I know there's probably multiple other shelves around your office there. And I think you shared with me too that you had given away, what is it, 4,000 books over the last couple of years?
5,000 books.
5,000. Wow.
We moved into a condo and there simply was not room for 5,000 books. So some of them went to Africa and some of them went to a teacher at a college, and he looked at my library and he said, I want those. And so we had to narrow it down to probably maybe 700. So I'm limited now. And even then I can't go back to read all those books that I devoured before. So self-development, it was not personal development. I came across that. I mean, that was just part of it. But things like Peter Drucker and management and all these other kind of things that you learn from and see, that's interesting. Where does that lead to? And so, that's part of the library problem. It leads you to other places.
So let me ask you this: in all of your learning, your education, your self-education, which is probably the best education most of us get, what was that one book maybe that impressed you about self-development? What was the first one?
Well, the self-development came sort of inadvertently, but when my mother retired from teaching at 67, she joined I guess a network marketing company in insurance. You probably know the one. And they gave her a list of books to read, which was Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. So she thought it was interesting, so she passed it on to me. That was the first one that I came across of that genre. It was interesting. So in a sense, that opened another door.
Interesting. So let's say tomorrow that the good folks there in Canada come along and they say, Barry, listen, you know what? We've decided you've had this great career. You've done so many things, and we're going to move you to a beautiful island, but you're limited on what you can bring. You can bring your Holy Bible, which I know is extremely important to you, but you can also bring 3 books. But there's only 3 books of the 700 you have remaining in your office there. What would the other 3 books be?
Well, my imagination needs to, I keep working on my imagination part. I have to see more than my world gives me. So one of my favorites is a science fiction book. I gave that one away to somebody else too, but the whole idea is it isn't what's in the book, it's what leads you to. So something of that genre kind of thing. And then the other one, I've got that's a hard question because I have so many I'd love to play with. But what I'm playing with right now, for example, another Napoleon Hill one, which was not published until well after his death. And that's intriguing because it also leads to other areas. It isn't the information in the book itself. It's what leads you to something else bigger than.
Interesting. And we'll talk about Dr. Hill a little bit too. I got a story I'll share with you on him. We'll come back to that. So let me ask you this, kind of as a segue. You've been in network marketing now for a long time. You've been successful at it, like you have everything else you've done in your life, which is amazing. All the careers that you've had, all the hats that you've worn, and you've raised your family on top of it, and everything else. So you've had an amazing life, to say the least. But let's talk about network marketing from this standpoint, Dr. White. There's a dad and his son, let's say, that maybe are where so many people are with this, pandemic situation where, their careers have been thrown into the garbage can over the last year. So let's say the 25-year-old, well-educated, he can take his iPhone, he can launch the space shuttle with it. He's got all this intelligence, all this knowledge of technology, et cetera, and he's living on mom and dad's couch. And at the same time, dad, who's 60 or so, was probably starting to wind things up, right? Financially, hey, I can retire in a few years, put some money aside, perhaps had a successful career in sales, marketing, management, whatever it happened to be. And all of a sudden this situation happens, and now his career is thrown upside down, and he didn't quite get to the finish line financially. He's still short, the money to really have a comfortable life after stopping working. And they say, okay, let's stop by, see our friend Dr. White. He's a smart guy. He's got all these degrees. He's been playing with this network marketing stuff. He's made money at it. Let's go in and see him. How do you counsel a 25-year-old and a 60-year-old at this point looking at network marketing, perhaps for the first time? Maybe they even have a negative view of it, because they don't understand it at this point. What do you counsel them, and how do you direct them?
In terms of network marketing, I never came across it until I was in my 50s. I mean, it may have brushed by me, but I didn't know what it was. For example, when my son was 7 years old, he wanted me to join up with Shackley. And so we bought two boxes of or cans of something. We didn't have a clue what it was. No one talked to us, that kind of thing. So here we are. In the old days, we used to think of work 40 years for the same company, get a gold watch, and retire. The current situation has proven that everything is changing rapidly, so fast that you better have a different kind of thing. So back to the 25-year-old. Right now, you may have been trained for something, in one area, but here's an area that you need to look at, because the industry called network marketing changes rapidly itself. It didn't in the past. It went, clunk on, but now everything is moving so quickly. So 25-year-old, get going on this, discover how to do it, make sure you're in top form, but start now. That's the important part. And get as many of your friends in this as well, because the future is very uncertain. With current situations in the world, everything may change. But back to the 60-year-old, that's a different matter. 60-year-old guy, you need to retire. Let's say you're going to wind up in a retirement home. You need money to be there. You need about $2.4 million in investments, because you don't want to eat your seed, right? So you need enough money to maintain lifestyle and provide for inflation as it goes on. So 60-year-old, get going. A lot of your older friends who are probably in the same boat. You need to really get at that whole aspect of getting we call it more secure. And besides, 60 years old, you're probably going to live for 20, 30, 40 years. You probably don't have enough money for that. And with inflation, even your 2.4 million isn't enough. So you need an additional stream of income that you can count on. And that's up to you, of course, but get going on that and get your friends there, because they'll appreciate it in a few years as well, when the circumstances make it difficult for themselves. When I was, in the time when I'm in my current network marketing, I thought that I was secure. I thought everything was good. Turns out I was dead wrong. Things changed on me. A whole variety of things, like getting stabbed and winding up in intensive care for 7 days. Those kind of things come around the corner, totally out of the blue. You can't count on them. They may happen, they may not. Accidents happen. You just have to be prepared with another stream that you can count on.
So let me ask you this: what other advice for anybody listening to our show today would you give them? I mean, you've got so much life experience. Okay, I don't want to forget either. I got to ask about you being stabbed, because I wasn't aware of that. So we'll come back to the stab part in a second here. I know there's a story, I'm sure, with that as well. But let's give the advice first to the people listening that, once again, they're on the fence. Maybe they've even been in network marketing and they're saying, hey, I tried that 10 years ago and it didn't work out for whatever reason, blah, blah, blah. And now, once again, they've got to consider their options, to your point, right? We're living in unique times, right? Unparalleled times, a lot of question marks going forward here in the future, right? So what's your advice overall to people about looking at this particular industry?
the past is the past. I came across figures that says very large numbers of new companies in network marketing are created every single year. And in 5 years, 95% of them won't be around anyway. So you choose wisely and well. So with what you know from the past, people saying, oh, you can buy things cheaper in the grocery store or whatever it might be, to find something that is unique and find something that is called not duplicatable by everybody else, something that is protected. That's hard to find because it's a very few number of companies that have that kind of strength and vitality. So you really need to have an awareness that the past of bad press for network marketing is maybe still there if you don't look in the right spot, but find the right company and it will prove to be the absolute positive best. But you have to choose wisely. And part of the problem is knowing enough. You need to know a person that has the information for you. So how do you go and scrounge for that person? Because they will have that information and you probably won't pick it up just from the press. They won't tell you. The thing is, you need to have a circle of friends and ask the question, where is the gold? Where's the gold mine? And very few people know. That's the problem.
So and that's good advice is seek and you shall find, right? The good book says that certainly. So let me ask you this. I got to hear this stab story. When did this happen?
Well, you probably know I was in my career, engineer 5 years and college professor and college administration 19 years, pastor for 25 years. So with my wife. So in the pastoral role, we were looking after a person who was not well. And he decided that to gain notoriety and glory, he should kill us. So he did the best to accomplish that. I got my wife out of harm's way and took the stab and escaped him and got back to where they could call the police and call an ambulance. The interesting part was that just sort of in the ambulance, I was conscious when they put me in, and my wife was with the driver. And then the conversation that took place, I had no knowledge of, but the guy that was looking after me in the back said, "No BP, hit the lights." Ooh. And the next thing I remember was a doctor putting a catheter into me. Now, I was too far out of it to object, but that was an interesting awakening.
Wow, I bet. Wow, I never heard. What year was that?
Say again?
What year was that? When did that happen?
92.
92. Wow.
Part of the problem was then after 92, financially, we were in terrible shape because of my wife had brainstem surgery. She was not doing well at all. I was not recovering. I thought I was recovered, right? But I wasn't. I was just not my normal, let's say, sharp self. So I found another company, or another company found me, and I thought it was the solution. Turns out it wasn't. In that company, I got third highest in Canada one year, and I got a $500 bonus. And that was the biggest check I ever got from them. So when when the current company came along, I was broke. My credit card was maxed right out. I had nothing in the bank, but the week before, a check arrived from the government from back taxes that they owed me, income tax return, and it was for $720. And someone took me down to Montreal to have a look at this company, which would, in terms, it was for my wife's needs, not for money, not for, that was not even in my radar at that point. She was dying on me. And so the amount I had to pay was $712.80. I had 720 in the bank.
Wow.
That was, so it's a risking everything, because I was convinced at that point that it was a solution for my wife's necessity of life. And I got back at 3 o'clock in the morning. If I'm going to be taken down to Montreal to go see, I'm going to wake her up. So I woke her up and gave her her first experiment part. And from then on, she was bedridden at that point, low energy. And by the end of the week, can you imagine this? She was well enough to go to a conference. So I knew I had been given the gift of something that was extraordinary.
Great. So let me make a segue from getting stabbed and multi-level back to self-development. Okay. By the time our show airs, okay, which will be late July, you will have heard an interview with the last protege of Dr. Napoleon Hill, a gentleman by the name of Ben Gay III. Ben's been in the industry forever, over 50 years. And I asked Ben, and I'd like your reaction to this and kind of closing out our interview, Dr. White. I asked Ben this question. I said, yeah, he spent 2 years with him. 2 years, basically, the company that he ran at that time actually hired Dr. Hill to work for it, and he became the mentor. They shared, office space. I mean, and he at that time, Ben at that time was about 25, 30 years old, a young guy, and Dr. Hill was in his 80s. Anyhow, I said, what is it of all the things you learned in 2 years, basically rubbing elbows with Napoleon Hill every day and considered to be the very last protege of his? What 3 things did he teach you above all else? And he said, number 1, I'd like your reaction to this, have integrity in everything that you do. Number 2, focus on what it is that you have to do. And finally, take action. Those 3 things. So first response to the word integrity. What does that mean to you?
Integrity is absolutely essential. I couldn't exist in my own psyche, right, if I didn't have integrity. If I was pulling people's chain and all the rest, I personally could not psychologically survive. That's not me. I don't tell lies. I don't bend the truth. So integrity is who I am. And I think the people I work with understand that if I tell them something, it's true. If I don't know, I will tell them. So the whole area of integrity, that's personally who I am. And I guess the company that I'm currently in attracted me because that's the kind of person I am. That's my core. That's who I believe myself to be, and therefore will act only in that way. Anyway, that was integrity.
Okay. What about focus?
The interesting part, I've always been focused. I'm a piano player, for example. I would give myself 1 hour focused time to practice every day. All right, focus. But I wouldn't give myself an hour and 1 minute because I have other things to do. All of my studies, for example, when I was doing my master's degree, my first semester, I read 11,000 pages of usually dusty material, but that was the kind of intensity I took to everything. So when it came to my current company kind of thing, focus, I had been stabbed and I just was not as focused, just not the same at all. So I meandered for a while. Then gradually, as I gained confidence and perhaps more strength and so on, I could get better focused. But that was sort of my characteristic is focus, but drifted more since we call it the incident, and that was harder to overcome. That was harder to get back to focus.
Okay, and finally, action.
Well, you can't sit on your integrity.
or eat it for that matter, right? Or pay the bills with
it. You just have to get, if you don't do something, nothing happens. It's one of these things that people, sit in the chair and they look for manna from heaven. It don't work that way. This world, let's say, rewards those that do something. And if you do little, you get little. If you do as strong as you possibly can, you'll do your best at any rate. At whatever you accomplish, if you know that you've given your top, and whatever you accomplish, then you'll know that's my limit probably. But you have to try. You have to find your limits. And the only way to do that is to push.
Well, all of that is great advice, Dr. White. And now I have to ask you this, okay? Most of our audience, some of our audience certainly knows you. Some of our audience certainly won't. You are now 83?
83.
83, going strong. What's ahead?
Well, expecting that a good 20 more years is in there. Again, you have to be careful about this changing world. I have to move, get on my dancing shoes and get moving. Just to sit with my current what I've got, right, may around the corner just not be enough. So tomorrow I have to find some other way to move with the times, and that may not be what I'm expecting. So I have to keep a little bit flexible. Part of the thing is keep my brain as active as possible, because what's next may require a sharper brain than I've got today.
Well, listen, you're doing great. You're an inspiration to us younger guys that know you and work with you and know you on a personal level. And thank you so much for spending time with us today. I want to thank Dr. White, first of all. I want to thank our audience. So in case you haven't heard the show before, folks, this is the podcast called Leaving Nothing to Chance. A lot of it is based on the book called Leave Nothing to Chance, which you can get from Amazon, hard copy, digital, etc. Our prior book, Moving Up 2020, actually has Dr. White's story in it. If you want to purchase that as well as a lot of the strategies necessary to build a network marketing company. Our show, Leaving Nothing to Chance, airs every Tuesday on Spotify, Apple, iTunes, and a number of other podcast networks around the world. That's every single Tuesday, even at Christmas, even at New Year's, even at Easter, all year. We never miss a Tuesday to be out there. So I want to thank you all for your time today. Dr. White, thank you so much once again, my friend.
And my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Leave Nothing to Chance. If you want to know more about what it takes to succeed in the network marketing space, join us again next week for another amazing episode. For additional resources and to connect with John Solleder, visit leavingnothingtochance.com. Don't forget to leave a review, and we'll see you next time.